Welcome to the Week 3 EdjSports NFL Betting Preview. I'm your host, Ian O'Connor, Senior Data Analyst here at EdjSports, and this week I'm riding solo. I'll be previewing the Week 3 Thursday Night Football game between the Panthers and Texans, along with a few other games from the weekend and a couple moneyline value picks as we do every week here. But before I dive right into the previews, just wanted to remind everyone you can catch us, me or us, every Thursday throughout the NFL season previewing the upcoming weekend's action. Also be sure to check out our new site and experience at EdjSports.com. That is EdjSports.com. And download our new app that's available for both iOS and Android. There you can get pregame betting insights for every NFL game throughout the season, as well as our fair value picks for the spread and total. And you have the ability to track your bets to see the probability of them hitting in real time, which is a really awesome feature to track during the game to see how your bets are doing if you got a good shot at hitting those. So now we'll just dive into Thursday Night Football. Tonight we've got Carolina at Houston. So like last week's Thursday Night Football game with Taylor Heineke for the Washington football team, we've got another backup quarterback making his first start of the season. And this time it's the third-round rookie Davis Mills who's making his first NFL start for Houston. So the market spread on this one is currently Carolina -8. Our edge fair value is sitting around Carolina -4. So we still like the Panthers to win this. We just expect it to be a little bit closer than what the market's got. We've got Houston with 53.5% chance to cover that +8 and nearly 66% chance to push or cover +8. So we know Carolina's gotten off to a hot start this season. They're number 1 in DVOA through 2 games from Football Outsiders. It's the first time Carolina has ever been number 1 in DVOA. Their highest finish, I think, was either number 2 or number 3 back in their highest ranking ever back in their Super Bowl season with Cam Newton. But then Houston hasn't been as bad as expected. They're 18th in overall DVOA. They're above average in both offense and defense as far as DVOA goes. Neither of these teams was really projected to be very good this season. Obviously, Houston was kind of projected to be down near the bottom 3, one of the worst teams in the league. Carolina was projected to be a little bit better. So they've had the hot start. You know, it's still early. No chance, no way to tell if they're going to keep that going. And the same with Houston. Like as I said, they haven't been as bad as expected. There's really no way to see there. But we see this one being a little bit closer than the market, like I said, with about a 50 or 66% chance for Houston to push or cover the spread. Now, as far as the total goes, we think there's going to be a little bit more scoring in this one. Carolina does have the number 1 defense in DVOA through 2 weeks. Again, that's kind of a surprise based on preseason projections. The market total is sitting at 43.5. The edge fair value on this one is 38. So we see this one pretty low scoring. Those offenses, Davis Mills, not really sure what to expect from him. But even with Tyrod Taylor, they were about league average. Sam Darnold has, in game 1, kind of looked like a game manager. They opened it up a little bit more last week against his former team with the Jets. So looking at that total, we've got a 68.4% chance to fall short of 44 points. So we think there's a lot of value in the under on this game. And some of those Thursday night games, can be pretty ugly with not much scoring like last week. Kind of late we saw some scoring, but this one we're expecting to be pretty low. Just one last note on this one too. 95% of the money, 77% of the bets are on Carolina. So like we said, we still expect Carolina to win this game. We don't necessarily like them at that -8 number, but we do still give them the edge to win overall. We've got them at 63%, so nearly 2/3 of the time Carolina wins, which isn't too surprising looking at this one. Moving on to our second game I want to highlight, Atlanta at the Giants, Falcons and Giants. So we had Atlanta on here last week. We expected Tampa Bay to cover the pretty large spread against them. It was close there into the fourth quarter. Atlanta came back. It was 28-25. And then Matt Ryan threw 2 pick sixes, and that dream kind of went away of Atlanta covering. So we were spot on with that one with Tampa. The Giants also covered. They were not able to come away with a win. As we know, Washington got 2 cracks at that field goal with a somewhat questionable offsides call on the Giants on the first missed field goal. But they did cover last week. So this week, we've got some value in the home Giants again this week. Now, Atlanta is the worst team in DVOA through 2 weeks. They're 32nd overall. They're 32nd in offense and only 29th in defense. So the spread on this one is sitting with the Giants -3. We've got it closer to the Giants more than a field goal at -5. The Giants are about 53.6% chance to cover with that whole number of 3 and 61.7% chance to push or cover. So like I said, the Giants were able to cover last week as underdogs. We think they've got a decent shot to do so as favorites this week and to come out and get their first win. The total on this one, the market is sitting at 48. Again, we're under, just like we were with the Thursday night football game, sitting at 43 points. So we're looking at only about a 34.1% chance to exceed 48 points. Now, in this one, it's interesting. 76% of the bets are on Atlanta in the public, but only 50% or 42% of the money's on Atlanta. We've got 58% of the money on the Giants as of this morning. So a lot of times, like we mentioned last week, those numbers, if those differ, you can kind of take, looking at the bets, that's, a lot of your average Joes maybe that are just betting on the home team or taking a chance on the underdog. But when you start to look at the money, you'll see those are your bigger bets. You've got your sharps, your people that are professionals that are gonna put a lot of money down in one bet, and we're seeing more money on the Giants compared to the number of bets in Atlanta. So that kind of makes me lean a little bit towards the Giants. Like I said, our numbers have the Giants pretty comfortably over 3 points, up to 5 points, and 62% chance to push or cover that -3. So the market is sitting, likes the Giants. The sharps like the Giants, it seems. So there is some value there in that home team for New York. Daniel Jones and the New York Giants get their first win of the season. Now we're going to move on to our third game. Again, just to remind you, now kind of in the middle of the preview here, all of this betting information is pregame you can find at our site, EdjSports.com, or on our app, EdjSports, which is available for both iOS and Android. Moving on to Miami at Las Vegas. So the Las Vegas Raiders are kind of a surprise this year. Despite their 2-0 start, they sit around the middle of the league in DVOA. They were able to scratch out that overtime win and that crazy finish on Monday Night Football in Week 1. And then last week, they knocked off the Pittsburgh Steelers, who haven't really looked as good as people expected, but Las Vegas has done enough to get a couple wins here. We found value in them yet again. We've been seeing value in them over the last couple weeks to cover. We liked them as slight favorites to win straight up in Week 1 against Baltimore. They did, and we're riding with the Raiders again this week. The market is sitting at Las Vegas -4. Our edge fair value is Las Vegas -6. So we think there's a couple more points there in favor of Las Vegas. 52.2% chance to cover -4, and just under 55% chance to push or cover that -4 number that we're seeing in the market. And fair to note here that there is no Tua Tagovailoa for Miami. We have taken that into account, that Jacoby Brissett, I believe, is starting that game, so that is accounted for here with our numbers. So looking at the total, even without Tua in there, we're expecting a lot of scoring. The Miami defense hasn't exactly been what it was last year. They had a lot of turnovers, which is hard to repeat. It's very variable from season to season, as well as defense in general. So we're expecting this to go over that market value. It's sitting at 45 points as of this morning. Our edge fair value is 54. So we've got a projected or an implied score of 30-24 in favor of the Las Vegas Raiders. And we've got nearly 73% chance to exceed 45 points. So in 3 out of 4 of our simulations, nearly this game goes over the 45-point market value. Both offenses, are capable, have got some playmakers, capable of putting up points, especially the Raiders there. And like I said, both defenses really haven't been great this season. So don't be surprised to see a lot of scoring and have this one be a shootout. And as far as the public money goes on this, there's really no dissent here. 64% of the bets and 72% of the money are on Las Vegas. So everyone's pretty much in on the Raiders. So it looks like the public bets, there are some people that are, as far as quantity of bets, are a little bit onto the Dolphins there, a little bit more than what the money's showing. But all in all, Vegas is the favorite in this one to get to 3-0. So now let's move on to our game of the week. This is not only our game of the week, but probably the game of the week in the NFL. Got the defending champion, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, sitting at 2-0, going up against the 2-0 Los Angeles Rams. Matt Stafford has had a pretty good start to his career out there in California. So these are perhaps the top 2 teams in the NFC, and there are top 2 teams in our Week 3 power rankings, with Tampa Bay just ahead of the Rams. So the spread on this game is where we see a little bit of difference between us and the market. Tampa Bay is -1.5 as of this morning. This game actually opened at Los Angeles -2.5 on the Vegas Insider Consensus. By Tuesday afternoon, it had shifted in favor of Tampa Bay to about a point. It was a pick'em that morning, and then by the afternoon, it had gone to -0.5 or -1 in favor of Tampa Bay. Our edge fair value is Los Angeles -1. So we think there's about between 56 and 57% chance for the Rams to cover +1.5. They're at home, SoFi Stadium. It's their second game there, but we're expecting some fireworks. And speaking of, we'll move on, talk about the total here. The market, it's the second highest market total of the week. Vegas has 55.5 for the total. Our edge fair value is 57 points, which is our highest projected total of week 3. So while we're pretty close to that market, we still think there's 57% chance to exceed 55 points in this game. So we're expecting a lot of offense. That Tampa Bay defense is good. They gave up, we said, I think it was 25 points to the Falcons last week. The Cowboys were able to move down the field and score on them. We still expect them to have a very good defense. The Rams also have a good defense, but these offenses have just been so powerful this season that we're expecting a whole lot of points out there in Hollywood. So in this one, like I said, the market has shifted to Tampa Bay -1.5, so it's no surprise that 86% of the bets are on Tampa Bay, but only 61% of the money is on Tampa Bay. So we're still seeing Tampa Bay as favorites out there. But as far as the money goes, it seems like there's a little bit more on the Rams compared to that number of bets or percentage of bets. Like I said, there's still 61% of the money on Tampa, but LA is getting a little bit of backing there, especially from us. And so the market basically has it as a 50-50 game in terms of implied win probability when you're looking at those money line values. But we have the Rams with the edge here at 54%, so not a huge difference, but we are a little bit higher on them. Slight favorites at home against Tampa Bay. So this is one I can't wait to watch. Can't wait to see if the Rams are able to pull it off and knock off Tampa Bay. It seems like they're just even better than they were at the end of last season, but it should be a very exciting game. And this is, one of those where we've got a little bit of value against the market for the Rams. So every week, like we do, moving on to some moneyline values, we highlight at least one moneyline value pick. In week 1, Cincinnati and Pittsburgh, we thought had some value. Both ended up winning. Now, in the case of Cincinnati and Pittsburgh in that week 1, they were both still under 50% to win. It was a lower probability event, but as far as compared to the market, we thought they were a little bit more valuable. They both did win in week 1. On the show last week, we highlighted Dallas against Los Angeles Chargers as one of the undervalued teams to keep an eye on. But in this case, Dallas was over 50% in our eyes to win, but they were still priced about 13% lower in terms of win probability in the market. I think they were around 38% implied win probability. We had them at 51%, so just above that. So this week, it's a 13% difference again, but it's in favor of Detroit against Baltimore. So this one, it might seem a little odd to you, but again, we're not saying Detroit will win. So like last week I mentioned, we had Dallas still over 50% compared to the market. We still have Detroit below 50%, so it is still a low probability event. But like our co-host last week, Frank, talked about, it's about finding value in the market. It's not just always picking who's going to win. And in this situation, Detroit, we don't necessarily think is going to win. But you're buying Detroit at a discount based on the implied win probability. So in the market, they're at about 24%, so they win 1 out of 4 times. Here at Edge, we've got them at 37% chance to win. At 13%, that's a pretty big difference there. We only see maybe 1 or 2, maybe 2 of those a week in our numbers from the market. The market's pretty good. We're usually fairly close to the market, especially when you've got some mismatched teams. But in this one, we think Detroit has a slightly better, or a little bit more than slightly better chance to win this one compared to what the market has. And an interesting note on this one too, especially when it comes to the public betting, 51% of the bets are on Detroit as of this morning. So we're not the only ones that think there's a little bit of value in Detroit. People are kind of latching onto this. They had a horrible first half in week 1. They had a great second half in week 1. They came back, covered the spread against San Francisco, had a chance to tie it and go to overtime. And then in week 2 against Green Bay, first half they played great. They had I believe it was a 17-14 lead there at halftime. Kind of fell apart, and Green Bay just turned it on that second half. Aaron Rodgers kind of got in a rhythm, and Aaron Jones just had a huge game. But Detroit is one of our value picks of the week as far as the money line. And we've got a second money line value pick this week, and that is Minnesota. So this is one, Minnesota has looked much better than what their record shows this year. They're at home against Seattle this week. They've lost their first 2 games, but they're better than 6 1-1 teams in terms of DVOA to start the season. Through 2 weeks, they're number 10 in our power rankings. The preseason projections, we were pretty high on them. They had a lot of things that go wrong last year as far as injuries, turnovers, things that you would expect to regress. And in week 1 against Cincinnati, they actually had the highest post-game win expectancy based on just how the two teams played, DVOA throughout the game. In that overtime loss, they came back, tied Cincinnati, went to overtime and lost. But they're a lot better than what their record shows. They're a missed field goal and some Mike Zimmer decisions away from being 1-1 this season. Could easily be 2-0 as well. So Seattle is 7th overall in DVOA. But like we said, Minnesota is a good team. And so we've got Minnesota at 55% chance to win. The market has them just under 49%. Our edge fair value on this game is Minnesota -2, where the market sits at Seattle -2. So not only do we like them to beat the spread in this one, we like them, like their chances to win straight up compared to what the market is saying. So that'll wrap up our Week 3 preview. Be sure to check out all of our pregame betting insights for Week 3 and beyond on EdjSports.com and our new EdjSports app. All of the information I've given you here today can be found on the site. We just like to pick out some games here and there to highlight and go a little bit deeper on to help you out. But all of our information can be found, again, on EdjSports.com. It's EdjSports.com, and our new EdjSports app available for both iOS and Android. Thanks for listening, and enjoy the games.